Well, good morning, everybody. I am Zoe Routh, and welcome to the Future of Leadership webinar roundup. If you haven't met me before, hello, nice to meet you. I'm Canadian originally, so if you guess Canadian, ding, ding, gold star for you. It's the land of lakes, rivers, and maple syrup. I've been in Australia for some 26 years now, I think that's correct. And I started off my career in leading canoe trips in Northwest Ontario. That led me here to Australia to work for Outward Bound, which was leadership development in the outdoors. Then I worked for the Australian Rural Leadership Foundation for 5 years, and on the side started up my business some 20 years ago. I've been full-time in my leadership practice for the last 9 years now. So little snapshot of me, I'm an author. I have 5 books to my name, 4 leadership books, and 1 novel. And if you don't have people stuff, actually, hang on a second. Sorry, I forgot about this part. If you don't have people stuff, it won Book of the Year in 2020. I would love to send you a copy. Just email me and say, please can I have a copy of people stuff? And I will physically send you a real live book, personally signed and everything. That is my gift to all the webinar attendees and anybody who's interested in my work, because I am passionate about helping big thinkers with big hearts make a big difference. And that's what we're going to do today, hopefully. So we've got a lot in store. Just settle in, sit back, relax. If you're listening to the recording, I always encourage people to make best use of their time and play it back at 1.5 times speed. And I've become suddenly very animated. It's a bit of fun, and you get through the content in half the time. Okay, so Future of Leadership, let's get into it. Here we go. I have to say most of the graphics are done with Midjourney. It's an AI-assisted text-to-image software, which is fantastic. And I do encourage you to go and have a play with it. What we're going to go through today is looking at the big picture, and then we're going to look at some big concepts, and then brass tacks. So I want you to walk away today with some practical things that you can go and implement, as well as exploding your brain a little bit. So we're going to explode your brain and then bring it back and pack it all back up. So we're going on a bit of a journey, a little bit of a journey today. And we're going to explore what's happening out there in the horizon and see how that's going to affect leadership. That's kind of the big effect that we want to do. One of the things I believe is that you've got to imagine the future in order to create it. So we need to imagine the future. What does that look like? Imagine a world. By the way, isn't this just a fantastic visual? This is all Midjourney creation. So I want you to imagine this world. You wake up in the morning, yay, you can hear the smell of coffee that's floating through your world, because your AI has naturally programmed your coffee to percolate on awakening just to the right level and quality and taste that you prefer. Your AI, let's call him Zeus, touches base with you and says, good morning, Zoe, or Frank, or George, or Georgina. How are you today? I've noticed that your sleep was not that terrific today. So I recommend these particular supplements to help boost up your regime. And this trend has been going on now for a week. Maybe you need to make an appointment to get a debrief around that and maybe adjust some of your supplements or get a counseling session to help you navigate what's going on for you. Are you particularly stressed? So you have this ongoing conversation with your AI as you get ready for work. When you're ready to go to work, today you are actually going in real life to have a collaborative, creative, dynamic meeting. Normally you work from home or at a cafe on your laptop, or in virtual reality to collaborate. But this is a special occasion. You're going to get together in person. And you get your AI to order you a self-driving ride to the location, and off you go, trundle off, and you have a wonderful time connecting and collaborating on a project that you are working on together that will have a side effect benefit in the community. And then at the end of the day, you kick off your shoes, your AI-assisted robot has prepared your favorite meal. Yay! You connect with the family, you have a bit of time and fun with them. And then in the evening, you might go on and collaborate and connect with your side hustle, which is in a DAO, a distributed autonomous organization. Well, that sounds like fun to you. And if you don't know what a DAO is, don't worry, I'm going to talk about that in just a little while. So that future is halfway here, you know, some of that's already existing in different forms or another. And I think it's really cool to imagine what that world's going to look like, and also to imagine what we want to have occur as opposed to just reacting to what is occurring. That's the leadership question, understanding what's possible and then crafting our future based on what it is that we want to experience, as opposed to just going with the flow and getting swept down the river of it. So I want to point you to this one particular resource. This book, What Could Go Right by Justin Bean, is fantastic. He's going to be on my podcast very soon. And he does a great analysis of the current trends, looking at what's positive about that, and then providing some prescriptions on the kind of principles that we could keep in mind when we're looking at how we redesign schools, how we redesign prisons, how we redesign economies and societies based on all these, the trajectory of all these trends. So it's a big picture thinking book that is very positively oriented. And I certainly take the positive orientation in terms of the topic that we're going to cover today. So let's look at the first trend. First one is electricity. And this is really cool because the focus on renewable energy has really been, it's been growing and evolving and coming to a big crescendo. And the idea here is, with a lot of the innovation in tech, that renewables will take over, and that means that we'll have access to cheap, affordable electricity. Also, with the advent of technology, people will have panels on their roofs more than they are now, panels on their vehicles, and people will become independent energy generators. And so they will be less dependent on a national grid, and more these localized autonomous hubs of energy will be the future. So instead of being consumers, we will be contributors. And this is a big distinction. It leads to an increase in autonomy and a decrease in dependency, and has a big knock-on effect for those big multinationals who are peddling, as we know, carbon-based energy. So this energy piece is actually pretty fundamental, because as we take control of our energy access and production, it means the cost of other things go down too. So we can leverage and harness natural resources like from the sun and the wind and water movement. It means that we can, the drop of manufacturing goes down, the cost of transport goes down, and that means the prices, everything goes down, and we have more resources to apply to other things, like solving some of our other problems that we've got. So this whole idea of electrified everything is a pretty important trend to keep in mind. We need to hurry up and get there faster, I reckon. So this is electrify everything. Again, another Mid-Journey, cool, cool image here. I also want to point you to this, Lightyear 1.0. It is the first solar car. It's been developed by a Dutch company, and it is, as you can sort of see there on the roof, it's got solar panels. Now, they're not a major production right now. They've only got about 500 cars available per annum. And yet this vehicle is out there, in your face, Tesla. So Tesla needs to adopt this particularly. And their range is pretty good. They say that they have a range of 725 kilometers. So that will get you from Canberra to Melbourne, no worries, assuming the sun is happening. There's lots of questions around battery storage and what it means if it's cloudy or raining, and how does that work, and what about driving at night? And with the growing infrastructure for renewables and electric cars, this could happen. This is a huge step in the right direction, though. It means that we don't have to just rely on stopping and starting at these to get your car charged up. So this is a huge step in the right direction. So as solar panel technology improves, again, it makes us better able to harness energy around the planet. So that's pretty cool, hey? Lightyear 1.0. So the second trend that we're looking at is data. This is intelligent everything. And this is about smart cities, homes, and wearables. Here's an image from Mid-Journey on a smart home. What is a smart city and what is a smart home? Some of you may be asking. And a smart home is where we have sensors that are, for example, monitoring how we are using energy. When is the most optimal time to turn on our energy flow, and when can we turn off things? At the moment, many of us are doing this manually. So we turn off the lights at night, we turn off the power points when we're not using them. It's a manual way of managing energy resources. So the future is there'll be sensors on everything, and we'll monitor when we most need energy and turn things off when we least need it. And it'll give us feedback loops as to how we can optimize our energy use. And that's the key point, is optimizing energy use. In a smart city, it's a similar concept applied across so many different things. And there's some cities doing amazing things. We've got Singapore, which in 2014 declared itself would be a smart nation. So they have sensors across so much stuff. They have sensors that, for example, monitor if people are smoking in designated non-smoking areas. So they can figure out how they can respond to that, police it, I'm not sure. They have sensors around that. They also have sensors that record when things are thrown from tall buildings. Now, Singapore is a island state with lots of tall buildings, and this is a critical risk. So how do they monitor that? I guess they figure out where the risk is and design some interventions to prevent it, and so on. Dubai is another great smart city. They've got lots of different initiatives, including having sensors in their public rubbish bins, so they can feel, the sensors indicate when those bins are full, and then that's when they get emptied. Instead of going on like every Friday, going around and emptying like a quarter full bin, they can direct their resources to where they are most needed at the time. So it's optimization. They also have sensors around traffic flow, so they can optimize the lights and so on to make sure the traffic is running smoothly, and therefore decrease idling, which contributes to carbon pollution. So there's lots of different ways these sensors are being used, and this is about being a smart city. It helps them make strategic decisions about resource allocation and services, saving billions of dollars. So smart cities and smart homes are all about optimization, streamlining to liberate our resources for other uses, which is very, very cool. Barcelona has the sensors as well as Dubai. Dubai is also working on a mega app, which allows you to do anything from vote to pay your registration or pay your fines, etc., as well as book a taxi cab. So at the moment, we don't have the one app to rule them all. We have many different apps that can do that. So Dubai is really focused on digital citizens and enabling digital citizens to relieve us from other things like credit card plastics and other things that get in the way of easy flow of energy resources and intelligence, actually. So this is that was the second big trend, is intelligent everything. Here's the third one: access, distributed everything, gig workers and blockchain. Okay, so now we are going into a deep dive down the rabbit hole of this whole Web 0.3. And so this next section will be a little bit of defining terms to help us become savvy with what's happening out there. So distributed everything is going to be a really important aspect of this. And it starts off, as we mentioned before, around distributed energy, where people are growing more autonomous with their energy usage and provision. The same thing will apply as our systems change. So let's get into some definitions. Web 0.3. What is Web 0.3? Well, Web 0.1 is when the internet first came out, and we could read things online, read text. Web 2.0, which we've been in for the last 10, 15 years, is where people could read and write. That's when we had blogs and you could write comments. And that's when social media emerged, where people could contribute to content online. It wasn't just a static thing. Web 0.3 is as the emergence of blockchain technology comes online. We'll talk about that in a minute. It enables people to read, write, and own part of the platform and content. And this is going to give a huge significant rise in autonomy, financial autonomy, work autonomy, a whole bunch of different autonomies. So this is where we need to unpack a little bit of what this technology looks like. So what is the blockchain? And in the event in Canberra, we were doing a little ChatGPT-3 demonstration, and one of the questions the group put was, explain blockchain to a 4-year-old. So blockchain came back, ChatGPT-3, is like a tower of Lego. Everyone can see the tower, everybody can contribute to the tower. And as you have these little blocks, you put them onto the Lego tower, you're adding to the construction of the tower. Everybody can see that happening. And once that Lego block is put in place, there is a key that locks it in place and it cannot be changed. It cannot be moved. So other people can keep adding things to it, but nothing that has been constructed before can be changed. It's all locked into place. That's kind of like a good analogy for blockchain technology. So blockchain is a code that allows codes to be bolted onto one another, verified as a genuine transaction, and that's all to do with mining. And once that transaction is confirmed, one piece of code is added to the other, and it's locked in place. So it's transparent. Everybody can see this transaction, the outcome of it, not necessarily who's behind it. That is still private, but they can see that this thing and this thing happened, and it's immutable, can't be changed, and it's completely transparent. Wow. And anybody can contribute to this as long as it's verified. So that's the blockchain technology. So what does that mean in real life application? It means that we can have, and it operates automatically according to specific criteria. So when X and Y and Z happen, this and this get joined together and it's confirmed. So what are this and this? It means that I want to send Ted some money. So we can do that through the blockchain, through using other coin-based digital currency. Say, for example, I want to send Ted some Bitcoin. So we enact that transaction on the blockchain, and my wallet, digital wallet, special crypto wallet, sends a code saying, I want to give Ted this currency, and it gets verified on the blockchain. Once the currency is confirmed that it's genuine and that Ted is the correct recipient, it gets lodged on the ledger. But they don't see Zoe and Ted, they just see Bitcoin was given or traded on this particular platform, and here's the record of that transaction. So that's very boring. Let's talk about what's important with that. Here's another key function of it, is distributed finance or decentralized finance. So on the left of this slide, and I'm pointing it also to odysseyDAO.com, which is a great resource explaining this whole distributed finance thing. DeFi is, first of all, looking at traditional financial system, you have a bank in the middle and they lend out stuff. So they're kind of the central hub. In decentralized finance, which is enabled by blockchain technology, it's a network. It's a network that hosts the whole traditional system. That's what allows the autonomy of the transactions. We don't have to go through a bank in order to lend money or get money. It's done through a network of computers. So it's decentralized like that. And that is kind of a massive thing. So now we don't have one institution taking a massive cut of the transaction or controlling all the finances. It's, if I want to give Ted money, I can do that. Now, there is some, what's it called, gas money that is required for the transactions because every transaction gets verified by miners. So that part I don't really understand that much, but it means there's a cost in energy and processing to allow that to happen. But it is decentralized, and the miners are, it's not one big community, it's not one big organization of miners, they're distributed, and any of the miners can hurry up and prove that transaction. That's what mining is, proving a transaction, and there's a whole competitive process behind the scenes where that works. So it means not one person controls it, and it's not going to line one person's pockets. Very different framework. On the blockchain, we have smart contracts, and smart contracts are essentially agreements that you make in a community about how these transactions might take place. So if I want to organize an organization on the blockchain, we can come up with agreements about how finances will work, how transactions will work, how decision-making will work, and that's all identified in smart contracts, which means that is code that's put into the system that says these transactions don't occur unless X, Y, and Z happens. Like there's a majority vote using tokens. Tokens can get voted and used in this particular way. And once the tokens are applied, then this causes a cascade of effects. It's all open, transparent. Anybody can see the smart contract and it cannot be changed, which is very cool. So it takes trust out of the system like we have in normal other processes. So a contract you might sign with a supplier is based on trust. We have a written document, but you could fudge that. You can fudge the agreement, get out of it. I could sue you, but you could still go off and do whatever you want, even though you signed a contract. This doesn't happen on the blockchain. You can't actually run the processes unless it meets certain criteria in the code. Very different. So trust gets taken out of the equation. These are the agreements. Doesn't happen unless these requirements happen. Very cool, right? So it's taking control of our money, taking control of our transactions. So cryptocurrency and tokens, there's a little bit of a distinction with that. So cryptocurrency is basically a digital currency. You still have to use non-cryptocurrency to buy cryptocurrency. So we still have to use Australian dollars to get into the system. And yet these things now have value. We can still trade Bitcoin, and we can, as one example of a cryptocurrency, and we can still use these cryptocurrencies to buy real life things. It's just another economic system that we've created. And tokens act kind of like cryptocurrency, but can be used for other things. They can be used as representations of something physical in the real world, such as tickets to a concert, or it could be used for voting rights, etc. So they've got a little bit more open use, I guess. So the cryptocurrencies are fungible, which means 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. A token is kind of like, it's one of a kind thing, and it can be traded and used for different applications. Hopefully that made a little bit of sense, which leads us to non-fungible tokens. Non-fungible tokens. Non-fungible tokens means that they're one of a kind digital object. And this is where there's been a bit of hype about it. So who cares about a JPEG? Who cares about an electronic file? You know, you can just copy it on the website. The key about NFTs is that, yes, they are a digital object. It could be an image such as this one, or it could be a digital copy, one of a kind copy of a book, say, for example. The whole idea is one of a kind. And those things have value. So really, yes, they do. So here's an example of this. Let me give you, where's my detail about this? So one of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Okay. So Bored Ape Yacht Club, I'll take myself out of the picture so you can have a look at that a bit more. These are some of the images from Bored Ape Yacht Club. They had a collection of 10,000 algorithmically generated unique avatars created by Yuga Labs. And ownership of a bored ape, one of these little characters here, represents more than just a possession of the image. It's about bragging rights. It also doubles as a membership to a virtual club full of like-minded apes. Now, this club also raises funds through the sale of its NFTs, and it has raised and donated $850,000 to the Orangutan Outreach Charity. And a set of 101 Bored Ape NFTs was recently auctioned off at Sotheby's for a whopping $24.4 million. Yes. So this may seem crazy, you know, really like just a little cartoon character. What's interesting here from a leadership point of view is that this is all about perceived value. People perceive value in being part of a cause. So helping support orangutans, they see status as being part of this club and owning one of these unique things. And that sort of fits into their identity and so on. So this is a way of creating value. If you're a creator, something unique that somebody else values that they want to possess. This is integral to all of our commerce in the past. To date, isn't it? People will give you something if they value what you have to offer, whether it's a service or a product. This is another way of doing that, except that it's built on blockchain technology, which is distributed, open, and non-fungible. So you can't copy it. And that transaction is proven and recorded on the web and has really interesting implications for a whole sorts of different stuff. Let me give you another example of another NFT. You might have heard of these ones. Yes, Trump's NFTs. And they launched 45,000 NFTs in late 2022 on the Polygon blockchain, each priced at $99. They sold out pretty darn quickly in 12 hours. And they're now, that means they made $4.45 million raised with this, and they're now reselling for $650. Yep. Now, there was things associated with those NFTs. So if you bought a whole bunch of them, a number of them, that gave you access to a dinner, or you, hang on, what was the deal? Each of them gave you a lottery ticket into getting different privileges. You know, first prize was dinner with Trump and some cronies at XYZ thing. Another lottery thing with the NFT owners was you got a bag of swag or something like that. So it was tickets to an event and tickets to being part of a lottery. There were some other benefits. It wasn't just the digital thing. Plus you were part of the Trump Club. And that has value. People paid money for it. Okay. So, which leads me all this to how do we organize using the blockchain? And this is the DAO concept, distributed autonomous organizations. What is that? That's me and you and a bunch of our buddies getting together. Maybe we know each other, maybe we don't. And we're rallying behind a cause. It could be a charity, it could be a commercial enterprise, it could be a group of investors who want to pool their resources to fund different things. All those things exist. There's social and commercial and investment DAOs out there, like this one. This is a DAO that's operating on the Ethereum blockchain. By the way, there's different blockchains. Ethereum is one of the big ones. And this is a commercial organization called Elite, not E1337, as I thought. It's called Elite. If you look at it, those letters spell elite or misspell elite. And what is Elite? It's an organization that sells real live products like these hoodies that are related to the gaming platform in which they operate. So these are gaming swag for people into gaming, and you can buy them using their particular token currency, which is they've got an identity as a diamond. So you have to spend some of their currency to get the hoodie, and you get it shipped to you. They're based in South Korea. They also have digital versions of this. Now here is a DAO that is a social one. It's called Friends of Benefits, a social DAO. Not those kind of benefits. Not those kind of benefits. But this is a real live kind of social network organization. And it's global. They got some 30,000 members, and they create a whole bunch of different events. And it's basically, the best analogy I have for this, it's basically like a central core committee runs the DAO, and they make decisions using their smart contracts, so agreements that they formed with the DAO, and they go out to the community of members to make decisions on everything from, shall we run this event? This is what we'll charge for it. This is what we're going to do with the profits. So it's a communal organization, and it allows pooling of resources. This is what it means to say that Web.3 is where we read, write, and partially own the web. So this is how we partially own. So those people who join a DAO have ownership, a stake in the organization. It's kind of like a commune, except, excuse me, the blockchain technology makes it all completely transparent. And it's called decentralized autonomous organizations because they're supposed to be self-organizing. As I look at all these, there still needs human input to guide it, and it still requires a core element of leadership to keep things rolling. You can't just put things up on the web and it all happens. The autonomous part is once the rules are set, the smart contract in place, that kind of becomes immutable. If you're going to adjust anything on that, it requires a whole process that's identified in the smart contract to change the regulations, and that all gets voted on in the DAO. So huge opportunities there, I think. So this is how you can bring together collectively and transparent. The two trends that are coming out of this that are important for leadership are the rise of autonomy and the rise of transparency. And blockchain technology is allowing both of that. There's just one more DAO. This is a commercial one, Power Ledger. And this is about providing a brokerage system for people to trade their renewable resource energy. So if you've got a surplus of electric energy and you want to put that into the system, you can trade it on Power Ledger. So that's a pretty cool thing. Make sure that I understood this correctly. I think that's right. So that's a commercial enterprise. So they're acting like a centralized broker in a decentralized platform. So that's kind of a weird mishmash. And I think there's been problems with that. For example, the FTX scandal recently, where that was a centralized cryptocurrency exchange. So it was an organization, a traditional organization that came together and said, hey, we'll trade your currencies, your Bitcoin and your other Ether and whatever, and you can trade all through us. And it was set up like a traditional organization on top of the blockchain. And guess what? Their organization was run in a dodgy way and collapsed and stole people's money. So that was the problem there. It wasn't the cryptocurrency or the blockchain. It was this centralized system. So Power Ledger could potentially do that if they were unethical. So let's hope they aren't unethical. So let's, whoops. The fourth trend is productivity. This is autonomous everything, robots and artificial intelligence. Yes, we know this one. So here is a very cool robot it's called Hadrian. And Hadrian is a robot that places bricks. And I was trying to think, how is this better than a 3D printer organization that 3D prints homes? But I think it probably has applications where 3D printing isn't always relevant. And this Hadrian robot picks up bricks and lays them, reducing the need for a whole bunch of human labor to lay bricks. This one you might have seen, it's Robear. This is an artificial intelligence robot, which is assisting in aged care in Japan. And this robot can pick up and move people around who require it. They're a big, cuddly Robear. So the idea behind all of these robots and autonomy is to free up human capability, or in some cases, put some capability in where there are no humans available. So there's a shortage of humans to do the work, such as aged care in Japan. And we're going to be seeing that shortage of employees around the world, as well as a desire to increase productivity, bringing in robots and efficiencies. Now, this is where people get all upset and concerned. It's like, what about the humans who need those entry-level jobs to get started? And that is a huge, important concern that we need to manage as a society, is what does work look like? How can people get started in work? And what is meaningful work? What is safe work? All these are part of the questions of robots and artificial intelligence coming to replace traditionally human-made work. There are some solutions to that. The universal basic income is one of the ideas, and taxing robots as an organization brings robots and AI in to replace humans, that those robots and AIs get taxed, just like a human might get taxed, so that we can gain income from that increase in productivity to, in the first instance, support the people who have been displaced. Universal basic income has had many different proof points around the world in terms of being effective. Effective, what does that mean? It means it's not social welfare in that we pay people and they just stay at home and they do nothing. That's the big fear with universal basic income, is that people won't be motivated to work. There's a fine line in terms of how much money we provide to people so that their basic needs are covered. They've got shelter, they've got food, and they can get medicine. So that's kind of a base level. It's still not enough to, have champagne every night and go cruising down the River Seine on a cruise. So if people want to have a quality of life beyond survival, then the idea of contributing in a workforce and a workplace is still there. You could create your own DAO and create value that way, and you can still contribute to the economy in different ways. So the UBI kind of takes the whole concern out of the way. We don't have this crash of poverty ensuing with the rise of robots and AI. Very complex social issue to manage, and it means a whole shift in thinking about what is work, what is taxation, what is our responsibility to provide for everyone. And the big shifts that are coming are important. Oh, I better hurry up. Okay, still on the trends. We've got wisdom. So wisdom is insights from everything: AI, ChatGPT-3, and Watson, say, for example. So if you haven't played with ChatGPT-3, go and do it. So my observations around a lot of these artificial intelligence is that it's a big move on from just search, for example, Google. And what's different about ChatGPT-3 is that it uses the same kind of mechanism, searches the web, and then synthesizes it and produces a text-based explanation of whatever the question is that you asked. It can operate like search, and you can also have a creative conversation with it. Unlike Google search, say, for example, it remembers everything that you've put into the conversation beforehand. So you can build and add clarification or fine-tune your questioning down a couple of levels. Example that I had a conversation with ChatGPT yesterday was, can you recommend strong women leaders around the world? So it gave me a list of leaders around the world like that. Then I said, okay, what about strong women leaders in IT? And then it gave me a list of particular women who are strong in IT, say, for example. So you can continue to refine the conversation or build on it. We did ask it if it could write a haiku explaining blockchain. Where's my blockchain tag? Oh, maybe it didn't come out. Here it is. And this is what they came back with. This is ChatGPT. Blocks linked in a chain, decentralized, secure, strong. Blockchain stands steadfast. Pretty good, pretty good. So that is the trend number 5. And the 6th trend is impact. This is about ethical, sustainable everything. Transparency leads to revolution. Big call. ESG has been a trend that's been rising for the last 20 years with the whole advent of triple bottom line. And the idea that companies need to be accountable for their impact and contribution. ESG stands for environment, society, environment, social, and governance, and ethical governance. So being transparent about your impact and contribution to each of those is important. The presenter I had at the Future of Leadership event was Ilea Buffier, and she has a carbon accounting software called Evaluate Sustainability. And in her research, she's showing that there's a move now that organizations will have to report on their carbon numbers, just like they're reporting on their financial numbers. This is coming. And we see it in the rise of shareholder activism. For example, where was it? Shell was taken to court recently, a couple of years ago now, they were environmental law charity called Client Earth. So the shareholders put forward a legal case against Shell saying, you have not honored your environmental protection commitments. And they took them to court over that. Pretty huge. And they own, these are pension funds who own $12 million of Shell's 7 billion shares. So these kind of shareholder activism are actually putting a lot of pressure on organizations to be more transparent and accountable. So transparency, accountability, and autonomy are 3 of the meta trends that are transforming our world of work. So this is the important piece to keep in mind. If we think about these trends and we create them and craft them and shape them, we can have a world that is abundant, equitable, and regenerative. What does that mean? It means we're moving towards a world which is abundant, equitable, and regenerative. There is more for all of us. All of us benefit living on a healthy planet for generations to come. That's the kind of world I want to live in. So one of the participants asked me, well, why do you just focus on the positive? There's some downsides to all these technologies. Of course. And the key point is, what kind of world do we want to create? We need to imagine it, and then we need to shape our decisions, our individual and collective decisions towards that particular world, as opposed to the one that we don't want. So moving forward, the question we need to ask is, what does this mean for work, workforce, and workplace? So our workers of the future are independent, autonomous. They value being part of something that has a purpose, that has a proven contribution to society and the environment. And they feel like they are making a collaborative impact on an important outcome. They are more independent, autonomous. They can work, they want to work from whenever on their terms, which is not always easy for the employer or the leader. So as a leader, this is going to have a lot of impact on you. So there's a couple of shifts that need to happen. In the world we're watching this happen, one of the big shifts is moving from extraction, just taking from the earth and the environment and using it for our own purposes, to focusing on regeneration, making sure that we live within our means and that things can be repurposed and continue to thrive in spite or alongside our use of the resources. In work, we are moving from the knowledge economy to the experience economy. What does this mean? The knowledge economy happened when we moved out of factory production and the computers arose, and all of a sudden we had knowledge professionals. So people who knew stuff, who could use the internet and produce services that way. As AI and robots come online, the shift will be experiences. How do we as businesses provide fabulous experiences for people? And alongside the experience economy is the creators economy. So the rise of blockchain technology, say, for example, will allow creators to become more autonomous, independent, and free from the big behemoths like Amazon, who dominate both the marketplace and the service provision of those goods. So we can do it independently. And that's sort of what Elite is kind of doing. They're staying out of Amazon and running their own hub on the blockchain. For workplaces, we've seen this shift from COVID. We're moving away from having headquarters, a place where people come to work and leave work, to hubs. And so this is causing a lot of strife for organizations who have big properties that they've invested in. How do they make use of those now and not lose their investment? Well, we need to reshape them into hubs. That means when people come to work, it's not for work that they could have done in a cafe. It's for work they cannot do except in the company of others. And the last shift is moving from doers to creators, doers to creators. And I think that's one of the big challenges for people, because we can become very comfortable, like coming into work, here's my list of jobs, things I'm doing, and away we go. And whatever that is in your context. Doing creators means like, and now I've got my AI, my robots doing the doing work. I don't have to do the admin-y stuff. I can fast track my report creation using ChatGPT-3 and some refinements of that. So these rote systematic activities that are often bottlenecks will be sped up and fast. And that means we have more time and space to be creators, innovators, problem solvers, and not just process-driven doers. So that's a pretty big shift. So there are three main things that are attributes that leaders need to cultivate in themselves and their teams. And the first one is being creative, being able to imagine worlds and to problem solve ideas and to bring things together and see patterns. That's the creative dynamic. The second one is to be collaborative, working in conjunction with other humans, as well as AI and robots, and being able to collaborate, work alongside each other, get the most out of each other, be adaptable and flexible, being able to take both the leadership role as well as a contributor role in any given context is pretty critical. And the third one is connected. And connected means advanced emotional intelligence, knowing who we are, how we operate, what our foibles are, what our strengths are, and also what our challenges are. So our ability to understand, experience our emotions, and manage them without causing harm to ourselves or others is critical, that self-management piece, as well as being able to understand and perceive the emotions of others around us and to be able to navigate that territory. So there's a couple of different things that we need to do with this. I'm going to share this particular slide. It starts with being connected. This is the big one. So the emotional intelligence piece is pretty critical. And we need personal maps of understanding the human territory. This allows us to create trust. Once we have this connected piece, this trust piece with these personal maps, then we can be collaborative. It's safe to interact with others. And that means we need to understand team maps, and this enables engagement. And we don't get creative unless we're connected and collaborative first. And with creative, we need to have particular idea maps, and this allows innovation. So let me share some of these maps with you. These are some brass tacks, practical things that you can take away with you. For personal maps, a couple of things that you could do to understand your own personal world, this is a do-it-yourself piece, is that you can go ahead and do some self-reflection. What kinds of things trip you up? What are your survival triggers? And you can go to David Rock's work, just Google SCARF, and you can look at some of the emotional triggers that put us into survival mode, that puts us on a back foot, say, for example. SCARF stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. So those are hot buttons, you know. So figuring out what your hot buttons are and what your colleagues' hot buttons are is one map that you could use. In my book, People Stuff, again, if you want a copy, just email me. I have one particular map called the 4 Devils of People Stuff, which unpacks some of those dynamics as well. So there's a bunch of different maps that you can use to understand what's happening for yourself and others in both a positive way and negative way. When it comes to team maps, one of the maps that you could go and do straight away is draw a sociometry. Now, sociometry is a big word for basically mind mapping the dynamics between humans. I learned it when I was at summer camp at the age of 17, and it served me well all this time, a few years now, in terms of trying to understand and visualize the team's dynamics. So if you work with one particular team or even multiple teams, basically you mind map, you know, here's me at the center or somewhere on the map, and these are all the other people. What are the relationships like between me and the other people? Where are they strong? And you might have a strong blue line for you and Georgina. And then you might say, but I don't really get along well with Esmeralda. It's kind of, we're distant. So Esmeralda might be at the top of your map and there might be a dotted line between it. So you diagram the relationships. And this is a type of map, a team map, that you can use to start to understand the dynamics of your team and what might need to work on and shift in order to build better collaboration. Other types of team maps that I do with organizations and teams are building a culture charter, a team manifesto, and a culture compass, agreements of how we're going to operate. I think these are pretty critical for high-performing teams. The third set of maps are idea maps, and these are fun. I love these ones. And here's one that you can walk away with in practice, is using constraints to help build up ideas. So if you're doing creative thinking, one of the idea maps you can use is a constraint. So for example, if this is our goal, let's say to earn $100,000 in 3 months, put some constraint about it. How might we start that, double it? How might we earn $200,000 in 3 months? And then cut the time. How might we earn $200,000 in 6 weeks? Constraints force you to think differently about the problem. And that's the whole idea of different idea maps, is that it teases out your thinking by putting constraints or idea maps on it. So that's one you can go and play with. So you can play with the timing, the quantity, and resources. So how might you earn 200,000 in 6 weeks with half the people that we have now? It gives you a sense of panic. Great. You're now in creative thinking mode. Some of the other maps I use in my 90-minute and 1-day workshops are things like system thinking, environmental scanning, scenario planning, problem trees. So mapping out. So using visual technology, pen and paper to map out problems, challenges, and opportunities is a key aspect of this. So that's some way you can create better connection, better collaboration, and better creativity, is using these types of maps. That's a big piece of the work. So there's some things you can do. There's some things that you can do on your own, and there's some things that you can do with me if you like. Some of them are live, or you can get some of the information in my Amplifiers Academy, which is an affordable, easy access way to get leadership development training. So Amplifiers Academy, I'll send the link in the follow-up notes. So you can get your lead change, lead culture, lead strategy, and lead performance resources and understanding and education so that you can apply these maps to your real world context. Okay, where are we up to? Okay. So leadership for the future is basically this, and it's kind of the 3 things that you need to keep in mind. Explore, map, adapt. You need to develop an explorer's mindset to keep your mind open and fresh and leaning into the future. So being happy to explore, look around the horizons, being curious and adventurous. The explorer mindset is central to that. The next skill is mapping. And I just went through 3 different types of maps that you can do. You map possibilities, you can map problems, you can map potential. It's all about mapping your ideas, your team, and your personal maps. And then the third piece is about adapting. Now, we're already very adaptable. There's lots of things in our world that we've had to adapt to. You know, if you're in your 50s, say, you remember a time when there was no internet. Yes, it's true. There was a time when there was no internet. Then we had email, then we had mobile phones, then we had smartphones. All of us, many of us have been on that journey of technological Ludditism. Is that even a word? Technology beginnings, and then having to adapt to that. That's one example of an adaptation. Another one might be, oh, you moved cities, or, oh, you decided to get into a relationship. Oh, you decided to get out of a relationship. These are all ways that we have adapted. So to practice adapting, do it on small things, you know, go a different way to your friend's place. Instead of driving the same circuit all the time, try somewhere new. I did it this yesterday. I went for a walk somewhere I've never walked before, and it was beautiful. And then I walked past the Dixon swimming pool, which has been there for yonks. I've never been in there. I went, I'm going to stop and have a look at that. So I did something different, and it opened my mind about, I could have been swimming here for the last 20 years. Oh my God. So that's an example of how we can explore, map, and adapt. It's like, have a curiosity mindset, do something a little bit differently, and encourage yourself to test and adapt. Adapting is also about incorporating new habits. So those are little micro scale things that you can do, let alone having to import, let's say, a new technology platform in your business or change complete direction into a new market or a new service, etc. Okay. So we're coming up towards the end of our presentation. I think one of the quotes I love from Waldo Emerson is, the mind, once stretched by an idea, never returns to its original dimensions. And that's sort of what we want to do. We want to keep stretching your brain so that it doesn't return into this closed mind circuit. We want to explode it a little bit, pack it back up, and so they can continue to grow and expand. So remember, explore, map, adapt. Explore, map, adapt. That's your critical point of view. The last journey I want to take you on is the Amplifiers journey. So here, basically what we're looking at here is when we are starting as leaders, we have probably not much experience in dealing with culture and performance. That's the horizontal axis. That's our focus on now. Nor do we have much experience focusing on what's next, and that's about strategy and change. And when we want to make a difference, but we don't have the skills to do so, we're more like agitators and we're reactive thinkers. So it's like, let's do something different. I don't know how to do this, but I want to make something work. As we grow our skills in both focusing on culture and performance, as well as strategy and change, we can become achievers. We are able to plot point A to point B, and we can take a team with us to that destination. Great. It's still quite linear though. And our context has changed so that if we continue doing linear thinking in this, we're going to burn out. We can't just do more of the same and get the same results. What we want to do is become amplifiers. What are we amplifying? We're amplifying our own skills and abilities and those of the team, as well as those of the organization. So we want to go from linear thinkers to exponential thinkers. The three ways that we do that is through this critical shift, reducing friction in our organization. So using AI and robotics to reduce friction, or just fixing your systems, clunky systems that are getting in the way of actually people performing well. Increase the capability of your people and yourself. So that's improving their leadership skills as an example, and maximizing energy, yours, your teams, your organizations, so that people show up excited and dynamic and contributing to the whole. Reduce friction, maximize energy, and build capability are your key responsibilities. So you've had lots of responsibilities on today's call. Explore, map, adapt, be creative, connected, and collaborative, and reduce friction, build capability, and maximize energy. Phew, that's all you need for the future of leadership. When we come to think about it, the future of leadership is leadership for the future. We can't just stay focused on now. We need to also be focused on next. So how do we do that? We need to learn how to balance the two of them. There's plenty of opportunity to do that. I'd love to support you on your leadership journey, whether it's through my online program, Amplifiers Academy, or whether I'm working with you and your team to build your leadership capability. In the meantime, thank you so much for your attention and for your commitment and for your contribution to the planet and to the people around you. I really value your attention and your interest. Have a wonderful, fantastic day.